Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Lawrence Connolly and Mr. Kevin Tate. Welcome to the studio, guys. How are you?
All good, Paul. Looking forward to the big game.
Kevin, this is your debut. What do you think of the studio, mate?
Different gravy, Paul. Absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. These guys have done a great job here.
Now, Kevin, you brought some prizes for our listeners, so we'll run through that in just a moment. But before we do that, let's run through the Celtic team. I don't know if you had a chance last night to watch the evening broadcast, but Jim Simonetti was one of the guests on there, and he dropped a bombshell, the bombshell being that Stephen Welsh was going to start in the defence, in the heart of the defence for Celtic today, and he was 100% spot on. Lawrence, I'll come to you first of all. What's your thoughts on that?
Brilliant. I was watching it last night and I put in the comment, brilliant. It's a player that fits the system that we've been playing well. So I think Welsh, he's not had a lot of games, 23 games or something. Out in Moore at Morton, one game for Celtic. He's a right-hand side central defender. I think it's going to be, we've got a player that fits the system rather than changing our system round about. Interested to see how Diego does, I think everybody's going to be interested to see how an £18 million player performs in these games.
Lawrence, we were speaking during the week and there was loads of considerations. One of the considerations is, what if Jullien doesn't make it? He's not made it. And what Neil Lennon's done there, and it's going back to the point you made last night, he's holding his side to the shape that he's got because it's been a success for him, and he's playing a player in his best position, which is young Welsh. So Stephen Welsh is in there. I think he'll be fine because Duffy will look after him.
I mean, we were talking about it in the kind of way through, whether to go the four at the back, maybe bring Ralston in for out colder, because if Jullien had made it, I think both of us were going to go forward and push higher out to right back, away from Paul playing right wing in front. But Julien's not made it, and I was like, right, Welsh is the guy that came in. Kevin was saying, well, not too sure. He still wanted to go with four and maybe have Ralston at right back. But Ralston, 80 odd games or something, 100 games or something. He's got a lot.
That was a good point. That was a good point last night you made, Kevin.
73.
Yeah.
73. I listened to the show last night and I was surprised with the Welsh kind of inclusion. A great scoop to get that. But I just thought Ralston's played more career games and he's played against Rangers previously. He's played against PSG. But however, he's going with Welsh. I'm sure Shane Duffy will be speaking to him all the way through the game. And it's a big opportunity for the boy. It's a big opportunity.
Talk about opportunities. This has got to be Duffy for a goal today, eh?
Well, I've predicted 2-0. I'm going to go for Duffy under the circumstances. I think he's going. Obviously, Scott Brown's a captain and he's a leader, but Duffy today will be a second captain for Celtic at that back. I already think he's improving higher as a defender with the positioning. He's not as erratic, I believe.
Yeah. I think it's having somebody that quality beside you. It's not so much improving you as a player, because I think Ajer is a player, but Ajer doesn't have to cover as much. He's not getting pulled out of position as much. Defence has got to operate as a unit, and he's got somebody that's increased the quality of the defence overall. So it means Ajer's got less cover to go. There's less gaps for him to cover, which is kind of. I don't think we see the best Ajer at centre half. I would have him as a right back, but. It's kind of a debate to be had. But today, he's centre half. There's no worries about him playing centre half. Diego on his left, Duffy to his right, and young Welsh to right of Duffy.
You've mentioned Diego, as you're calling him, Lawrence. I'm happy with that. Laxol or Lazol. But what we'll do is I'll run through the 11. Everybody out there will already know what the Celtic starting 11 is. It's Barkas and goals. Absolutely no issue with that whatsoever. Duffy at the back. You'll be... playing alongside Welsh and Ajer. We've got Frimpong on the right, picks himself at the moment, doesn't he? And on the left, we're getting a debut, like yourself, Kevin, making his debut for Diego Laxalt. And then what we've got is McGregor and Brown in what I call the engine room, with Klimala up top, and Chan playing in the kind of number 10 position, if you like, just behind, just in front of the engine room, and El Yunusi off of the front man, Klimala. Kevin, before he came in, we discussed who we should have picked for up front. I did mention yesterday that it wouldn't surprise me. I called it a curveball. Probably wasn't a curveball, to be honest, because Klimala's the fittest out the four.
Yeah, I think Griffiths has had the game against St Johnstone, and that's really just about it. Eddie ruled out. Ajeti been injured, but the hamstring's always a tricky injury. It's one of those where he's probably better from the bench. So I can understand probably why he's went with Kamala. If it was myself, I would have went Griff and just said, give us 45 minutes, then speak to him at half time. Have you got another 5? Have you got another 10? But again, it's another big opportunity for another young player in Kamala.
It is.
Starting against Rangers.
You know, Kamala's already proved he can cope with some industrial tackling, which I think the ref's going to allow again today. You know what I mean? So we're going to need fit players on it, isn't it? You know, if we're putting, let's be honest, they're going to be able to collect us late after the ball's gone. There's going to be studs fly. Then
I think there is. It's important as well, Lawrence. I mentioned this yesterday. Guys like Duffy, Scott Brown, Callum McGregor, even Ayer, you want them right on top of that referee from the first minute.
Aye, definitely.
You know, because this is going to happen. You've got to, get on top of that. We've seen it at Dundee United. We've seen it against St Johnstone. These referees are certainly not going to do Celtic any favours.
There is going to be a change for the referee. You know, we kind of go to the Rangers pub after the game because the pubs are closed, but,
That's true. Now, we've mentioned Klimala up front. I don't really have any concerns about it. It wouldn't have been my choice, but obviously last night I said, well, what do you think Neil Lennon's going to do? Because I've got my predicted 11. Everybody's got that opinion. You're looking at the bench, you've got Ralston and you've got Taylor. So he's looking at the three centre-halves and he's maybe thinking two things. Firstly, what if one of them pulls up with an injury, as we saw against Sarajevo with Beaton? Or what if, we want to close shop, maybe 2-0 up. He's got the two full-backs, he can go to a flat back 4. So I can understand that as well. Ralston, again, he got 90 minutes against Motherwell, didn't he, in the closed-door game, yeah. Kevin. Scored a goal, a bit of a forgotten man for Celtic. But as you say, he's got the experience. I don't think he'd be anybody's first pick, but he's there and he plays the position, which I think is pivotal. Gone should be the days of McGregor at left-back, Johnny Hayes at left-back. We need to be playing players in that position, particularly in big games like this.
100%, Paul. With Ralston, he's played in the big games against Rangers and PSG, is what we touched on. But I would rather see players in your top games in their correct positions. Callum McGregor's, for me, pound for pound, the best midfielder in Scotland.
Yeah, so don't play him out of position. Or whatever you do.
I don't think Callum had a bad game at left back, but you just missed so much from him in midfield.
You did.
It just changes your team too much. And playing the right players in the right position, it uses the squad. What's the point of having 3 right backs or 3 left backs or whatever? If you're not going to go right, the first choice is out. We're going to drag a midfielder back to play that position. It's we've got to use the squad properly.
You do, and looking at that bench, we talk about having a strong bench, and I think for most games this season we have had. So Bain is obviously. Bain is the substitute goalkeeper. We've also got Griffiths and Ajeti, so it's great to have 2 strikers on there. Sorrow, we've seen him in fleeting appearances for Celtic. Turnbull has looked good and he knows the Scottish game inside out. He won't be fazed by a game like this. Rogic is good for games against Rangers, and of course we've already mentioned Ralston, but also Henderson. So talking about using your squad, I don't think Henderson would be our first pick. He's obviously making up the numbers there, but we might be in a situation where you can give a guy like young Henderson some game time. He's a player. I liked his big brother. I thought had Neil Lennon stayed at Celtic, so would Liam Henderson. I think he was one of Lenny's boys. Lenny doesn't often bring through youngsters. It's not a criticism. I just think his style of management is he buys players for certain jobs. If Henderson comes on, great, but I think that would happen maybe later on in the game.
Lennon's given a few.
If we're winning 2 or 3-0,
he's given a few young players a chance. I think he brings through as many youngsters as any other manager. I think we'd all like to see a first 11 made up of boys that come right through the club. When's that going to happen in modern day football? So I think Lenny, if they're good enough, he's not frightened to take a chance on them. I think Liam Henderson would have been more a Lenny player than a Rodgers player, definitely.
Yeah.
He's a good bit of dig about him, good steal on him. Decent pass of the ball. Let's hope, his brothers might be better. Let's hope he does get a run out, we're maybe 4-1 up there. I think it'll be 4-1 because Rangers will definitely get a penalty. Right, so I think maybe 10 minutes to go or something, maybe get a run out.
You might hear a wee boy crying outside. He's just dying to get in and watch the action. He's been buzzing all day like most of us. But Kevin, what would you do if it was a situation where you come in for the penalty spot and you bring in loads of goodies for our viewers and our listeners? So we're going to run a wee competition. So Kevin Tate, as you may know, runs a shop in Glasgow called the Penalty Spot, and they also do loads of live events. So he's brought in some cracking merchandise here. So what we want you to do is predict the score today and the first goal scorer, and you will win prints. So there's a Neil Lennon print, and Eddie still knows his print, and who's the third one? Oh, it's a wee man, Frimpong. And you'll also win a t-shirt. And now there's 3 different types of t-shirts, and we've got 3 bundles. So the first 3 out the hat who get the right score and goal scorer will win one of these prizes, and that's courtesy of Kevin Tate at the Penalty Spot. Nice one, Kevin. And if you're out there in the next few weeks, visit you. It's on Sword Street in Glasgow, am I right?
Yes, 158.
Oh, there you go.
Sword Street, Glasgow.
Get in, Kevin will get the kettle on for you.
Nice retail around the shop. It used to be owned by Celtic centenary player's hero, Joe Miller. Used to be owned by his dad, Dodie.
Interesting enough, was also a player, wasn't he?
Yep, it's a fruit and veg shop. That was a surprise for myself when I picked up the premises. So it's a nice wee Celtic connection.
It certainly is a nice wee Celtic connection. Whenever I pop in, there seems to be an ex-player in there, Kevin, be that wee Joe or John Fallon and, Jim McCalliog. I've bumped into so many ex-players in there as well, Kevin. So visit the shop. There is the plug. We're going to plug Kevin's shop for him because he's come in and he's taken the time to come through. But we are running that competition. You'll also see that we're sponsored by FansBet. And if you want to see some particular odds that they're put together for our listeners, specifically for our listeners, check it out on Twitter. But let's go to the game, and I want to hear your predictions. So I'm going to start off with yourself, Lawrence. Give me a score line and a first goal scorer.
So I think it's 4-1, and I think Rangers will be daft enough to leave Big Shane free in the box, and it'll be a bullet header for the Big Derry man.
I would love to see that. 4-1, you're a confident man. Kevin, you
That's
said
first
that.
half.
Kevin, your confidence dipped a wee bit when you seen the team lines. I says to you that when I saw that team, my confidence increased. Because I just think that sometimes when you're up against it, and we have been, right, we're up against it because of COVID and we've lost a few players because of that. We're up against it because of the official who's actually refereeing the game. And of course you've got the home advantage, but without the fans. So there's a few things that are unusual about this game, but I think that works in our favour. Siege mentality. Neil Lennon will get the boys up for this if they need to get up for it, because you've got players like Brown and McGregor who have all been through this so many times before. Give me your prediction for today, Kev.
I'm going to go a very cautious 2-1 to Celtic, and we'll go with Mo. I think the game might be won from the bench. The 5 substitutions, I think, will probably work in Celtic's favour. I always say it, a week's not won by the first 11 or the first 13. It's won by a squad, and I think there's big parts for your Rodgers, your Griffiths to be played, not just today, but the rest of the season.
See, when you look at that bench though, guys, and you look at players like Rodgers, and I know he's not played much this season, but he knows this fixture so well, as does Lee Griffiths. You're looking at Turnbull, one of the most exciting young players in Scottish football, and you think to yourself, a Yeti, £5 million from West Ham, worth every penny so far. It's a snippet, £5 million.
Yep.
And you're looking at these guys on the other side. They don't have that strength and depth, do they? And I think it's a great point you make, Kevin. We might be looking at the last 35 minutes of this game to make some substitutions and turn the game. I think Celtic can do that. I'm not too sure Rangers could do it.
I think Rangers kind of, I think everybody could probably name their first 11. How do you name a Celtic first 11? You would be possibly as many players as possibly 4 players out. And that's even with knowing who's fit and who's not, because who would have picked out Welsh? Now we've got Kamala up front. Who would have picked him in front of Griffiths or a Jet of the day? So there's another couple of players that it's a big opportunity for them, and I'm sure they'll do themselves justice, and they've got a good bit of experience. Moyes a good experienced international player. Got Shane Duffy at the back, who's not only a captain, he's an international captain, and I see the difference in Ayer already from him, and even the defence And the goalie for me, he's always been very cool. A big test for him today though, but he's always been very cool. I like his distribution, and I think the boys will do it.
I think so as well. Now, let's go to the game because we're about 60 seconds away from kickoff. We'll be back with Kevin and Lawrence at half-time for 15 minutes and at full-time for another 30. So please bring in your predictions. We'll have a look at all your messages and we'll be giving away some prizes at the end of the game. Enjoy the match and we'll see you at half-time.